Hello, my name is Nicole Harmon, and I'm the director here at Humane Indiana Wildlife. We're a wildlife rehabilitation center located in Valparaiso who cares for injured and orphaned animals who are native to Indiana. One of the most common types of animals that we actually see here at the center each year are different squirrel species. We have 4 species of tree squirrels here in Indiana, ranging in size from the very small southern flying squirrel all the way up to our largest, which would be the fox squirrel. Right now is actually baby season here at the center, and we have more baby squirrels than we have any other different type of animal here. So I wanted to kind of take everybody through the different types of squirrel species that we have, share with everybody why they came in, and then be able to actually physically show them to you. So the smallest type of squirrel that we actually have in care right now would be our little red squirrels. They also can go by the name of piney squirrels. Sometimes we talk to people who will actually refer to them as that name and not even know that they are called red squirrels. Red squirrels are going to be our second smallest. The flying squirrels are just a little bit smaller than these guys, with adults just getting a little bit bigger than this baby red squirrel is now. Now, the flying squirrels are nocturnal, where the rest of the 3 different species are actually diurnal. This little red squirrel is only about 2 weeks old and came to us after having fallen from its nest and not being able to be reunited with mom. Now, when we're looking at our baby squirrels, we're looking for some key characteristics to identify them from the different squirrel species that we have. And for reds, the easiest way to tell that we're working with a red squirrel is actually by looking at this little black line that kind of trails along its belly. If they have that black line there, then we know that it's a red squirrel. They'll also kind of develop that auburn color that they have on them. Now, this little red squirrel, being just 2 weeks old, is actually being fed 5 times a day. And these guys, no matter how old they are actually getting 5% of their body weight each time, which means that he's just getting 1 cc of food every 5 hours. Now, this little red squirrel is in with its siblings, and it'll actually stay with us here at the rehab center until it's about 14 weeks old. By that time, it'll be fully capable of caring for itself on its own. It'll be able to climb its trees. It'll be able to create nests. It'll know how to forage for food, what different types of food to search for, all those different components that make it healthy adults. Now, our red squirrels have the most varied diet out of all of the squirrel species that we have here. These guys are not only known for eating different types of seeds and nuts, but also for eating different types of funguses. They'll lap up tree sap, as well as being carnivorous. So if they can eat a baby bird, they would definitely do that. They're also known for eating different types of insects. This year is going to end up developing into quite the ferocious little squirrel. These guys are known for having some pretty voracious attitudes on them. Now, when we go to the other different types of squirrels that we have here, our gray squirrels are going to be the next largest. And we actually have a couple different ages of gray squirrels here at the center right now. So these little gray squirrel siblings actually came to us here at the rehab center just a few days ago, having come from a nest where the entire nest had fallen out of the tree during the wind. This would be a situation where we wouldn't necessarily say that this is human impact. This is definitely something where, it couldn't really be helped that the nest came out of the tree. It's also a situation where we can probably guarantee we're not going to be able to get them back with mom. When they had fallen out, the weather was pretty bad, and the rescuers did the appropriate thing by bringing them inside. Maybe had the weather been better, had mom been sticking around, had maybe the entire nest not come out of the tree, we would have definitely tried to reunite them with their mother. These guys are also just 3 weeks old. So at this point, just a little bit bigger than what their reds are, but as you can see, kind of not as developed. You can still see a lot of their skin. Their fur hasn't quite grown in as kind of robustly as that red squirrel is. They also lack that black line that goes along their belly. Yes, there's a color difference, but there's no black line there. Now, one of the things that we can actually do with our babies when we get them and we kind of have them in care is that we can see whether or not mom has actually been around recently to feed them. And to do that, we actually look for something called a milk line. So if you can see in his belly right here, that spot on his stomach is actually white, and that white is milk in his stomach. That would tell us that someone has fed him recently. Now, again, because he's been in rehabilitative care for the last couple of days, we know that staff had just recently finished their noon feeding. That's obviously where the milk came from. One of the things that we recommend is that people who end up finding these babies and caring for them maybe overnight in case it's after our business hours, we don't encourage people to actually feed them. None of those commercial formulas that you can find in a store are going to be good enough for these babies. Their digestive system isn't going to be anywhere near, what kitten formula or puppy formula or even goat's milk can provide them. So really the best thing that we can do for these babies is to just keep them nice and warm. Again, he's pretty much naked, so he's going to need to be kept nice and warm. He's going to need some help regulating his body heat before he can get to the rehab center. That's really all we're looking for people to do. Now, just like that red squirrel, he's going to end up being with us until he's considerably older. And at that point, we're looking for him to be between 10 and 12 weeks of age. Right now, out of all the different squirrel species that we have here, we have more grays than anyone else. So we actually have some older gray squirrels to be able to show you as well. And it looks like this little guy has the hiccups. We'll go ahead and put him back and take a look at a little bit older gray squirrel. Now, as these guys age, they do end up developing more fur. Their ears will stand up, their eyes will open, and that tail will get nice and bushy. So as we see their eyes open and their ears stand up, we know that they're obviously getting better vision, and they're able to hear a little bit better about what's going on around them. That first little baby that I showed you couldn't see me, couldn't hear me, really was just kind of hanging out here at the rehab center and not able to really comprehend what's going on in this room. This little guy, though, is actually about 5 weeks old. Has been with us for at least 4 weeks now, receiving care. Again, another situation where it wasn't able to be reunited back with mom. We always try to get these squirrels back with mom. It's really ideal and best for them to be raised by their mother and not necessarily in a rehabilitative setting. Now, he's just halfway to release age, so he will more than double in size, and this tail you see here, which is already starting to get nice and bushy, will get even bushier. And that tail is actually very important. It conveys a lot of different information for different squirrels, and actually helps them to be able to communicate with one another. They can tell one squirrel, maybe this is my territory, you need to back off, or hey, I found food over here, or there's a predator nearby. So that tail is really important, and we want to make sure that all the squirrels that come in here have nice and healthy fur, have their entire tail intact. That's going to be really important for us as we consider whether or not they're going to be able to be released, or maybe whether or not maybe they're able to be released now, or we need to wait a little bit longer. So again, this guy's about halfway through his care. Within the next 5 or 6 weeks, we'll be able to move him outside and then get him ready a little bit further for being able to go back out into the wild. Some of the different kind of skills that we need to help to teach them is to forage for food. When they're younger like this, we actually have to kind of help them navigate around branches and maybe give them smaller spaces and then kind of progressively work up to a larger space for them to be able to practice climbing around. We're going to help to teach them how to build nests for themselves, how to build different caches for food. All of these things are really important. We're going to introduce them to different food types slowly and make sure that the food types that we are providing them are things that they're going to find naturally in the wild. So we're always looking for different native nut species to be able to provide them, maybe a native fungus to be able to provide them, and certainly different seeds. The third species that we have here, as far as our tree squirrels go, is actually our fox squirrel. And believe it or not, this baby, who's the same size as the gray squirrel we just had, is actually only 3 weeks old. So that gray squirrel is just 2 weeks older than this fox squirrel, and is considerably more developed. This is going to be our largest species of squirrel. Fox squirrels actually have fewer babies than the other species do, and are known for kind of this russet color. When we see our squirrel species, these guys are relatively territorial, so you're not necessarily going to see gray squirrels and fox squirrels and red squirrels kind of commingling in the same habitat. Now, this little one actually came to us after having been found in the road down on the concrete. And so the assumption there was that it had fallen onto the nest, out into the road. We weren't able to determine where that nest was even located. And we always worry at that time that maybe there was some sort of damage that had happened when it came down onto that hard surface. We're looking for a lot different kind of injuries than if it had maybe fallen down into some grass. So this baby, being only 3 weeks old, is actually being fed still 5 times a day. So he's coming home with staff each evening to get just one more feeding. And then just like the grays will be released at 12 weeks, where again, those red squirrels were actually being released at 14 weeks. So we need to keep them just a little bit longer. Now, when we're looking for different habitat types to be able to release these guys in, we're looking for the different tree species that are around. We're looking for what other species of squirrel might be found in that area, and then what food sources and predators there are as well. We also want to make sure that we're not kind of inundating an area with too many squirrels because, like I said, these guys are definitely territorial. Now, over the course of the next couple of months, we can plan to take in several hundred more squirrels here at the rehab center. We've already taken in probably close to 80 of them. Like I said, squirrels are one of the most common species we have here, and it's because they do so well in residential areas. Everyone who has bird feeders or gardens, flower beds certainly have squirrels around who are taking advantage of those resources, and as a result they do really well in neighborhoods. Because of that, we have different issues that we have to worry about with them. Being hit by cars, falling out of trees, maybe territorial disputes that bring them here, or even domestic pets. It's not uncommon for both dogs and cats to get a hold of a baby squirrel, maybe provide them with a small injury, or even just carry them around in their mouths for a while, and then result in us being able to not return them back to mom. All of those would be good situations where we would want them here at the rehab center. So for right now, we'll continue caring for these babies for at least the next 6 or 7 weeks before we're going to be able to release them here from the rehab center, and we'll actually release them at different local property types that are suitable for each species and suitable for the number of squirrels that we have. So thank you so much for learning a little bit more about our squirrels and taking a look at some of the babies that we have here at the rehab center.